this presentation today is basically about the end of AIDS, cancer, terminal disease, and disease in general. I know it sounds crazy, but we are so used to the paradigm of medicine where terminal disease is terminal, there's no answer for it, you get into a war with cancer and AIDS, you have to take medication that destroy your quality of life, if not your life itself. And occasionally you make it. With AIDS, of course, the numbers are a little bit better, but with cancer we're talking about 5–6% cure rate when somebody has a disseminated disease. The insanity here is as defined by Einstein. Insanity is where you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, hoping for a different result. Well, we've been doing chemotherapy and radiation now for 100 years or more. If you count the early techniques of surgery with the Romans, maybe even centuries more than that. And we've been poisoning with everything from mercury to arsenic, to infections, to, of course, modern-day chemotherapy and radiation, which we have Hitler to thank for, because all of that stuff was born out of World War II. So we don't see any decent results, but we keep continuing with the same. I don't believe cancer is an enemy or a disease that you have to fight a war against, lose your hair, throw up your food just to make a small gain. I believe it's a cell like any other cell, and there's a switch that turns a normal cell into a cancer cell, and that same switch can be switched off. And when you do that, you have some amazing, amazing responses. Now, a lot of you will say, oh, it's pseudoscience, oh, it's crazy. Science tells us that there is no cure for cancer and AIDS. Well, you know, yeah, not long ago, science told us we were the center of the universe. Science told us the world was flat. Science told us thalidomide was safe to take. But for 20 years now, I've been using a treatment based on DNA repair enzymes and organisms that can correct the DNA in cancer cells and turn them back into healthy, normal cells. I combine that with a chemotherapy type that I call it chemo just because it's a chemical base, but it's non-toxic, and the cells it doesn't kill, it turns back into normal cells. So this is, we're talking about isomerases, topoisomerases, DNA polymerases. We're talking about chemicals that promote healthy function as opposed to poisons that kill cells, cancer cells and healthy cells alike. So this paradigm shift in medicine, when you're now talking about repairing things, you have two main advantages. One, a cancer cell does not have an evolutionary pressure to destroy your therapy or to overcome it. If you're trying to kill something, it'll fight back and develop resistance. If you're making something healthy, it leaves you be, and it gets healthy because that's its preferred state. Of course, you don't have to believe anything I say about cancer being an immune system that actually encloses infections, but I would say that based on tuberculosis and lung cancer, anywhere you go on the planet, the more lung cancer, the less TB, the more TB, the less lung cancer. It's a perfect symmetrical inverse relationship. And actually, cancer has a perfect symmetrical inverse relationship with infections that used to kill us at the turn of the century. Tetanus, staphylococcus, streptococcus, all these infections used to kill. A little cut of paper and the person would die at the turn of the century. Now, you know that people will say, well, it's because we developed vaccines and because we developed antibiotics. But you also know that if you cut yourself with a piece of paper, you're not going to die, whether or not you take antibiotics or vaccines. What you didn't know is that antibiotics and vaccines were not developed till a good 20–30 years after the trend started that people stopped dying of infections. People stopped dying of infections, people started developing cancers. My theory that cancer is a system that encloses something that would kill you in hours and allows you months or years of life, you don't have to believe that theory, because all you really have to believe is the results that I will show you when you use these therapies. Now, of course, the only really sad thing about this announcement is that I should have made it 20 years ago. But 20 years ago, I followed the traditional path. I went and took some amazing discoveries I had made to Cedars-Sinai, UCLA, and USC. And they tested my work in test tubes and in people, and they confirmed that it worked. They actually even published it as their own. But you know, you don't have to take my word for it. There was a big lawsuit you can read up on YouTube. You just put in NBC News, Dr. Sam Chachoua, and you'll see the NBC News coverage of that big lawsuit. Now, at the basis of it are Cedars-Sinai Medical Center and UCLA begging me to come work with them because they had seen some results on some major movie stars and celebrities. The one celebrity I can talk about is Audrey Hepburn. She was dying in Cedars-Sinai. She received my treatment in Cedars-Sinai. She improved so tremendously that she went and accepted Golden Globes, and from her deathbed, mind you. She lived for another few months, perhaps a year or two, but what had happened was that when she accepted her Golden Globes, she asked me point blank, this is a letter, by the way, of Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, headhunting for me and thanking the guy who brought me over and saying that they were impressed by my clinical successes. Clinical success, people, means success in patients. So they had seen patients get well. Anyway, so we started working together. I actually paid them to test all the work. And Audrey Hepburn went on to ask me whether I could cure her. And like now, back then I hadn't learned how to lie. I can't tell somebody, yes, I can cure you 100%. I know I'm very good. I know the therapy is amazing. And I don't say that with any ego. It's just that recently my own medical board asked me to issue a statement to say that, well, more or less, they asked me to issue a statement to say that my therapy is not as good as chemotherapy or radiation. And, you know, I don't know how to say this nicely, but the hell with you. I'm not going to stand in front of people and lie to them that my treatment is less effective than chemotherapy or radiotherapy when it so obviously is. I'm not going to make myself any less than what I am, just so people can feel comfortable and happy and die. You know, So we have a therapy that's deadly, and we have a therapy that works. And today I hope to show you that. More importantly, I want to show you that 20 years ago, UCLA, Cedars-Sinai, USC knew that this worked. The only question that should be in your mind at the end of this is why the hell didn't they bring it to the public? So let's see some of the results, just some of the results. And I won't even bore you with the letters of praise which say that the vaccines had profound inhibition against HIV. But at a time where there was nothing and protease inhibitors were just coming around the corner, here are vaccine after vaccine, more than 99% effective. Now, some idiot recently has been saying that it's goat's milk. Well, no, goat's milk was the inspiration, the first inspiration behind the AIDS vaccine. This is Cedars-Sinai testing showing that in therapeutic doses, my vaccines are safer than water. So, what happened? Well, when AIDS first broke out, I had an idea about what it was. The most horrible experiment ever done in medicine, one of the most horrible ones, was by two doctors at the Walter Reed Army Institute, Dr. Malmot and Dr. Padnos. Brilliant piece of science in discovering that they had a virus in Ehrlich sarcoma ascites, and actually it was breast cancer ascites, if I remember right. So they found a virus that sits on the outside of the cancer and kills any immune cells that try to attack the cancer. And they thought, wow, now this virus explains why our immune system can't get rid of cancer. And it kind of reminded me also of endogenous retroviruses, which we know about today, which are viruses that may play a role in keeping the immune system away from a developing baby. Because remember, a baby inside its mother's tummy is half dead, so it should be rejected, but it isn't until the birth process. So Monmouth Padnos discovered a virus that protects cancer cells against the immune response. They called that virus the Monmouth Padnos virus, MP virus. Now, what would you, as a rational human being, think of doing once you've found the virus that protects cancer? Wouldn't you think of finding a way to kill it or inactivate it so the immune system can then attack the cancer? That's what normal people would, but hey, luckily, doctors aren't normal people, and researchers are a special kind of crazy. So, not always, but the ones who mess up the world are. So these guys decided that they would inject the virus, the MP virus, into people with leukemia and lymphoma. Because leukemia and lymphoma are white blood cells, they are immune cells, so let's inject them with the MP virus and see what happens. And sure enough, the MP virus, when it worked, decimated the leukemia and lymphoma for a few weeks. And then the leukemia and lymphoma came back worse than ever, and worse. The MP virus proceeded to destroy every normal white blood cell in that patient, and they died of a massive immune collapse. So what were we looking at in the 1960s? We were looking at AIDS or something that looked very much like it. So back when everybody was trying to find the cause of AIDS, back when they were jokingly calling it the gay bowel syndrome or the gay-related intestinal disorder, back when nobody had a clue, I knew. And I also knew that for every disease there had to be a situation where it was inhibited or prevented or reversed. So news came out of Africa about a prostitute who was sleeping with many clients with AIDS but had never managed to catch it. So the first time I saw pictures of the lady and the first time I actually met people like her, I found that the common thing they had were deformed hands and restriction in movement and signs and symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. So I thought, wow, I wonder if rheumatoid arthritis can actually act against AIDS. And sure enough, rheumatoid factor, which is a protein in the blood of rheumatoid arthritis patients, can actually inhibit HIV and can actually destroy the virus under the right circumstances. I then wanted to find something practical because sure, you could give transfusions from arthritic patients to AIDS patients, but there was also something else that I knew. I knew that disease exists in different amounts in different parts of the world. And in one place in particular, north of Guadalajara in Mexico, I found people with all the risk factors, drugs, prostitutes, blood transfusion, and even boyfriends with AIDS, but they never developed HIV or full-blown AIDS. And when I went there to see what was special about that community, I found that they drank raw goat's milk, and that raw goat's milk came from goats who were suffering from a disease called CAEV, caprine arthritis encephalitis virus. And the minute I saw the arthritis in these goats, I put two and two together, remembering the prostitutes who couldn't catch AIDS. And sure enough, when I tested the serum of the patients there, of the people there, they were positive for CAEV. In other words, they had contracted the virus from drinking unpasteurized goat's milk with CAEV in it. Why doesn't this ever happen in America or in the civilized world? Because the civilized world doesn't treat their animals as their friends. And if any mass production goat has arthritis, they kill it before it can infect another goat. In Mexico, they're almost family members. They're giving them the milk, well, at least in those small communities. Of course, Mexico now has taken up the process of killing them for mass production to not infect the rest of the herd. Okay, so here was a clue that a lentivirus called CAEV could prevent HIV infection. And that lentivirus led me to checking into other lentiviruses as well. And just recently, Brazil, the government laboratory facility in Brazil called LACEN, they discovered that the technology in my vaccines is way ahead of the current vaccine technology. Okay, we're back to definitions of insanity. All the AIDS vaccines we have right now are made out of bits of HIV. GP160, 120, 40, the receptors that everybody talks about. We make a vaccine that fits perfectly onto HIV. The trouble is that a perfectly well-fitting vaccine carries the virus into the T cell, which it then destroys, much more easily. The immune system, the antibody, actually carries it in like a lubricated condom. It glides right into the receptor and it has a much better fit. So those vaccines are useless. You can't make a vaccine that's a perfect fit for AIDS. And using lentiviruses such as CAEV, you can create an antibody response that doesn't fit like a glove. It fits like a boxing glove as opposed to a condom, sorry. So now you have this massive thing that doesn't fit perfectly, only a little bit, because CAEV and HIV are not perfect matches. So the fit doesn't allow it to then enter the receptor. The fit doesn't then allow it to destroy the cells. It's that simple, and yet it's a new concept in immunology to not make something that perfectly fits the target, but imperfectly fits it, to break the link between the immune response and the disease, to stop the disease from being able to enter and destroy the immune system. Again, I talk to people with common knowledge logic. If HIV kills the T cells that attack it, and an immune vaccine, a perfect vaccine, makes more immune cells attack it, what are you doing? You're accelerating the disease process. You're giving it more food. You're allowing it to enter those cells more easily. And that just kills your people. An imperfect fit is the basis of my vaccinations, which are not goat's milk. They're highly purified fractions of the CAEV and other lentiviruses. So it's really important to understand that we've failed with immune technology for this long because we're trying to make the vaccine so precise to the GP 160, 140, 120 and 40. And the more precise the fit, the easier it will enter the cell and destroy it. Now, people, there's a huge difference between the source of an inspiration and the final product. So I've seen people saying that I inject goat's milk. Grow up. No. It's a highly refined product based on lentiviruses which have actually been trained to efficiently remove HIV from the cell or to protect against HIV infection. And the fact that my vaccines contain no HIV allows the immune system to develop a resistance on things that look like HIV, and when it attacks the HIV, the virus cannot use the immune system to enter the cell. So injecting goat's milk, please don't be ridiculous. These are vaccines that are professionally made, very precise, very sophisticated, and that have been registered for 20 years in other countries. Okay. The other assumption I've seen everywhere is that this is pseudoscience. Well, it isn't really. It's strongly scientifically based. What isn't strongly scientifically based is current AIDS treatment. Let me explain myself. I've told you about the vaccines and how the mechanisms are, but there's something I knew even from the early days where USC on United States soil evaluated patients that I was treating with the vaccines. Okay, the patients weren't treated in the States, the evaluation was in the States. And they clearly say that the number of viral particles decreased after Dr. Chachoua's vaccine. And this is back in 1998, I believe. So this is again almost 20 years ago. But what I noticed back then was that in patients who were told that they were were virus-free or undetectable virus, the immune cells were falling apart. And those tiny little black dots in the cytoplasm here, under electron microscopy, showed that the cells were still infected. So the blood test was saying it wasn't infected. Your eyes were saying something else. You look under the microscope, there's the virus. You look at the piece of paper, it says undetectable. And then with my treatment, sure, the number of viral particles in the cytoplasm decreased, an internuclear dense body began to appear. This was the actual vaccine, making its presence felt inside the cell and throwing HIV out of the cell and leaving just a healthy cell, instead of the one that was falling apart before, so full of virus. So when I brought that to all the big researchers, what they said was, well, you know, electron microscopy uses metallic dye, so the virus is probably dead. These are probably artifacts you don't know. And sure enough, you know, when it's anything they want to see, they see it. When it isn't, it's artifact. That didn't stop them from saying that my vaccines were effective. And this is a letter from USC back in 1998. A vaccine that's effective in prevention and treatment that existed 20 years ago and was used on people who lived in America 20 years ago and was tested by the biggest institutes 20 years ago and was published by them too. But I'll get to that in a minute. In the interim, the Union of Comoros asked me to go and help them with chikungunya and AIDS. And you see here 3 letters thanking me. They're dated 2006. All I know is that from the mid-90s to the mid-2000s, they used my vaccines. And while they were using them, there was no AIDS, no chikungunya. There's been a rise since then, but the government changed and stopped using my therapy over 10 years ago. Before you ask the question, no, there's never been a single report of adverse effects in any of the countries that have had my vaccines registered. So this plot thickens a few years later when atom force microscopes started becoming used more and more. An atom force microscope isn't something horrible. It's actually quite pretty. It's a cute little thing, not always pink, but you know, it's almost as strong as an electron microscope. The difference between this and an electron microscope is that it doesn't need dyes as much and it can see things living. So what happened when electron microscopes were phased out a little and atom force microscopes began being used? In 2003, the Journal of Virology, big journal, published an article, and here's the title of it. I want you to get a good look at it, because I don't want you to believe in me. I want you to believe in the truth. And other people also see the truth. 15 years ago, the Journal of Virology published this very important paper. And it said that when it looked at the blood of patients who were taking protease inhibitors, when it looked at samples of blood treated with protease inhibitors, and when it looked at normal HIV blood, there was no difference. HIV showed up as clusters, both in the treated sample and in the untreated sample. What does that mean? It's actually screaming at you. It's saying, we get a blood test that shows undetectable virus. We put the same sample under a microscope, and the virus is right there. And you know what? It doesn't look any different than the untreated sample. So obviously there's some difference because the blood test isn't detecting it anymore. But you have to understand that if you want to detect a virus with a blood test, you have to have a very precise fit of your leader sequence, the thing that acts as a fish hook, and grabs onto the virus RNA, and we're using powerful therapy that is screwing with the viral RNA and the whole appearance of the virus. So is it so fantastic to believe that something that could damage HIV that way couldn't also make it invisible to our blood test? I mean, the same thing we're attacking is being altered by the medicine, and now the blood test doesn't see it anymore, but believe your eyes. Look under a microscope, it's there. Okay, so all of our medicine of AIDS is based on a big fat lie. That also explains why the most recent articles of The Lancet show that people with AIDS still die exactly the same incidence from tuberculosis as they did 20 or 30 years ago. It's kind of hard to know. Nowadays, you see a patient with AIDS, automatically they go on to the AIDS cocktail. And I'm sure the AIDS cocktail does something. I'm sure it does help with the quality of life. But remember Magic Johnson? Well, he's been around since before protease inhibitors. He's been around for 30 years with the AIDS diagnosis. So what Superman pills has he been taking? It ain't the cocktails, because he survived for a decade or two without them. It's more than likely that as AIDS burns through the population on Earth, we are getting more resistant to it, or we are getting more able to live with it. And along comes a medication that does a perfect job of treating your blood test, but is lying to you, because the virus is still there, and obviously there, and in exactly the same amounts as in samples without protease inhibitors, but they tell you it's non-detectable. It's non-detectable because they're not looking. Since 2013, at the very least, we've known that atom force microscopes can see the virus. So why isn't that part of everybody's blood test when they're checking for HIV? Why doesn't your doctor, if he's really interested in treating you, why doesn't he look and see how much virus shows up under the microscope? As opposed to reading a blood test that's a lie. Or do we prefer lies so much? Do we just live for them? So he can look at you and say you're doing great, and you think you're doing great, and then you walk out, the medication destroys your liver or destroys your heart, or you die of AIDS. You know, obviously things are better now, but the whole basis for AIDS treatment and testing is a lie. It's almost as bad as the lie with cancer. I mean, honestly, we keep treating people with the same thing that killed the last 10,000 people who walked through the door. How dare we do that as doctors? And how dare we say that that's medicine? Okay, protease inhibitor treated cells. Infected cells treated with the protease inhibitor nelfinavir. The particles are not perceptibly different in surface character from those on untreated cells. So these virions look quite similar to normal HIV particles in size and shape. Treated, untreated, same amount of virus, same shape, same behavior. At least to the atom force microscope. Now, wouldn't you rather develop medication that would eradicate the virus from the atom force microscope so that it's not actually there? But I guess this is the first real situation where medicine has been developed to treat a blood test, to look good on paper. Okay, so there are two articles I want to bring your attention to right now, because see, I don't care if you believe I invented this great therapy or not. I do care if you believe it was tested or not. So it was tested, it was registered. What I'm going to show you now are two articles published, one by UCLA and one by USC back 20 years ago when I was working. You can imagine doctors are so obsessional about reviewing everything before it goes out to the media. Usually anyway. So here's Angelina Duvas of the University of Southern California, Los Angeles, publishing that Goat virus may protect against HIV. Let's read the first two lines. Humans infected with a harmless goat virus develop antibodies that neutralize HIV. The remarkable finding offers hope for a safe, attenuated AIDS vaccine using the goat virus or blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. 1997. AIDS Weekly is not a known medical journal. She's announcing this to the lay press. She's already got patents out on work that was done with my technology. And it's kind of important to notice that USC announced a vaccine that can eradicate AIDS in 1997. How many people would still be alive today? How many people would have been saved had that vaccine then been brought to the public? Now, these are based on my work. All of this is based on my work. And Angelina Duvas went on to make patents again based on my work with vaccines, with different lentiviruses, mentioning that different lentiviruses could be used, and chimeras. Chimeras is something I've always hated, but I tested it out and it failed. And it's always got a danger in it. A chimera is, say, half CAV, half HIV. You splice the viruses together. Back in the late 90s, we showed that this didn't work. And I hated the idea because what if you end up splicing HIV with another virus that's airborne? Don't play God. You have a virus that already can kill it and destroy it and prevent it. Why invent something else? Oh yeah, that's right. Because CAV and lentiviruses are natural. And maybe you can't make so much money out of them as you can out of a vaccine made of a chimera. A lot of people died. The cost is horrific. 20 years. You keep trying the same garbage that you can patent and make money off, which is a specific AIDS vaccine, and you don't do something that's based on nature. I think it's 70 million Mexicans have drunk goat's milk with CAEV in it. It's the biggest experiment ever done by God. When we followed thousands of people over years, not one of the people who was CAEV positive developed full-blown AIDS, and not one of the people who were CAEV positive ever developed an illness from CAEV. They never got arthritis. So, or anything based on what CAEV does. So, 20 years ago, we had a vaccine that could have by now eradicated AIDS. Before we hop on to the next page, just which is right in front of us, but the thing to take away from this is that USC, University of Southern California, published my work. They patented it as their own. I don't need you to believe that they stole it from me. Just ask why they didn't bring it out to the public. And instead of believing idiots over a doctor, well, I am a doctor and I've had some pretty nasty attacks. Like we said, I inject goat's milk. No, it never happens. The other thing is that I think it was Dr. Drew and Dr. Oz and Charlie making an issue about the arthritic goats from Mexico. Making fun of the thing. Well, USC offered it as an actual therapy 20 years ago. Why didn't they make fun of it back then? Who the hell are they compared to a USC? I just don't need you to believe that my work was stolen. I just want you to know that it was published by others. You want to believe they invented it? Great. Ask them to give it to you. Lymphocyte transfusion therapy for cancer patients. Don't assume that because it's one person that it's primitive. Sure, there are a lot of quacks out there, a lot of people out there who do strange things. But these are government-registered medicines. I'm a real doctor, and get over it. UCLA, Cedars, Dr. Oz, Charlie Sheen, Dr. Drew have never come up with a single vaccine. Institutes don't. TV characters don't. The guy who wiped out smallpox was one guy. The guy who wiped out polio, one guy. The guy who wiped out anthrax or who developed the anthrax vaccine, one guy. So if that's what you use to distinguish real from fake, don't. I also said the source of an inspiration is not the source of the therapy, or may not be the therapy, it's just a source. You want to evaluate the treatment because it may have been discovered in goat's milk. You take chemotherapy, that stuff grows in soil and in animal crap. So you're eating animal crap. You take hormone therapy, good. You're drinking horse piss because that's where it's isolated from. So please, just look at the science. Don't make an ego-based judgment. Don't make a personality-based judgment. You want to understand the science, talk to me. Don't attack it. So we get to the second thing, which is lymphocyte transfusion therapy, which Paul Terasaki published. And I won't bore you with the letters where he's begging me for the codes to my extracts or how exactly I did this. But he came up to me and he said, look, Sam, I know that you have vaccines, we're trying to push through the FDA, but this will take time. I have people who are dying right now. What can I do? I said, well, the easiest thing is to say cancer is an immune deficiency. So let's find somebody who's been exposed to the cancer day after day, who has a good immune response, and in a family, that would be the kid to the parents with cancer. And what we did is arrange for a blood transfusion from the children of people with cancer to the people with cancer. And the reasoning, whatever they were exposed to, whatever the adults were exposed to, the children must be exposed to too, or must have been exposed to. And cancer cells, like any cell, sheds, so there's a constant exposure. We did it on quite a few patients. 6 of them were published, I think 6 or 7, and it was a 100% remission rate. Yeah, what? Back in 1995, UCLA published that they had a technology that put patients into remission 100% of the time. Now, of course, there are certain laws. You can't say certain things without sugarcoating it. So, we have to just say it's useful, it's an efficient thing. But let's see what UCLA said. We conclude that allogenic transfusions from normal donors can have an immediate effect on tumors, probably as a result of the NK killing mechanism, natural killer cells. This approach has almost no side effects and may be applicable to a wide range of tumors. Yeah, you heard me right. This is a treatment from 1995, which means really 94, 93, published in 95, that has no side effects and put everybody who was treated into remission. So that's really important. A lot of people have seen the federal case, because I sued Cedars and UCLA, I'll tell you why in a minute. A lot of people have seen all the blood tests and all the letters from them saying that this work is great, but they've thought that it's fake, because UCLA, Cedars, USC, they never say that they never worked with me since the lawsuit. They said it, I sued their ass, and now they just say, well, the lawsuit was overturned by a judge. They don't mention that the judge was married to a dean of UCLA, or that they blew me up in the interim to stop me from appealing, but I don't care about that stuff. What I care about is that you see that they published. USC published there was a vaccine that can eradicate AIDS, and UCLA published that there was something better than chemo, 100% remission rate, no side effects. Really, you let that be published and just go by. And you let that be published and just go by. I hate putting blame on people, the average people, because how are they going to know about publications? They never even get involved in any of this research until they're dying. And by then it's too late to know up from down, and you just find a doctor you like and he's going to save you. Well, it's not good enough. You know why? Because I just told you about it. And I've been telling you about it for 20 years. There's no excuse. I mean, like, when you know that this exists, how can you live with yourself if somebody you love dies of cancer without even trying it? or dies of AIDS because they never took a vaccine to prevent it. Again, when you publish in a journal, it opens the whole world to challenge the publication, to say it's not real. Well, you know what? Nobody has ever challenged Duvas or Terasaki. Okay, so these publications remain and they're standing. And you look them up on the internet, you'll see them. Now, what happened was the falling out. I guess the simple reason for it is they wanted to steal my work. But the reason I ended up suing them is because they destroyed a lot of the cultures I had, which made these magnificent vaccines. You know, if it was goat's milk, I could have easily gotten another goat, couldn't I? But these were specific cultures. I had passaged, for example, the CAEV and other lentiviruses. I had passaged them through test tubes and animals to make them more aggressive against HIV. And I kept selecting for the culture type and subtype that would be able to throw HIV out of the cells over and over. When you inject an animal with HIV and with CAEV, usually CAEV will win because, like a goat, doesn't have a receptor for HIV. So you're ending up making a very powerful anti-serum in the goat, which is getting more and more precise against AIDS and against eradicating it, destroying it into pieces. And you're getting less and less possibility of side effects or possibility that it won't work. You're making it better at what you want it to do. So when I genetically modify it or environmentally modify it, it's not so much what you associate with genetically modified food today. It's more like I keep putting them into competition against each other and selecting the stronger candidate for a vaccine. So Cedars and UCLA decided to keep all my cancer vaccines, all of the organisms I had spent millions of dollars and decades perfecting. And if you believe them, they destroyed them. But I never saw them again. I was never able to make cheap, easy vaccines that way again. The fight, though, started before that. It started when Paul Terasaki saw the amazing results he had with the patients from just a blood transfusion and decided, against my wishes, I told him, Paul, the blood cells from the kids, they're only going to last in the parents for a few weeks. So please, I'm begging you, design the protocol. They have 6 transfusions. He agreed to that. He would go out, big guy, big smile, very warm. He'd ruffle the hair on the kids and say, you're ready to be a hero. He would take a pint of blood out of them, give it to their parents. Kids never said anything. They never cried. Terasaki was my hero from the work he did back in Chernobyl. When it came time for the second transfusion, when the cancers began to recur, when the remissions when the remissions began wearing off, I said, well, you just need to do another transfusion, Paul. And he's like, no. Why not? Well, I've already proven my point. It's time for someone else to carry the torch. And he would look at the kids who were begging him to give blood so he could treat their parents, and he just laughed in their face, tossed them out of the lab, and I never forgave him for that. And I couldn't believe a human being could do that. You actually cure somebody of cancer, and you know how to keep it cured, but you don't do it. You know, he died with a personal fortune. He donated $80 million to UCLA. It's not like UCLA didn't have the money to continue the work. It's just people don't matter. In science, I guess. So that's what started the lawsuit. That's what started the fight. So what do you do when your whole world just falls out from under you? See, if you're a doctor and you found a cure for cancer and AIDS and you end up being attacked by the biggest institutes on the planet, your life is pretty much over. Nobody will listen to anything you'll say. They blackballed me in the medical journals. They actually boasted about being able to do that in the trial. And luckily, there are still other countries out there. America, like I always say, is one of the best countries in the world. It's not the only country. So countries that hadn't heard of UCLA and Cedars saw what I could do, registered my vaccines, and that's really important you understand this. My vaccines have enjoyed registration in several countries. The time I was working in Haiti, for example, the incidence of AIDS was halved. Then the government changed, they stopped using my vaccines, and the president said it's because we finally learned how to use condoms, which is almost as insulting as AIDS came from a green monkey that the black guy had sex with. Yeah, I don't know how people can't even see the racism in that. I want to show you, though, that countries like Honduras and Guatemala registered my vaccines and honor the registrations to this day. 20 years where you can go there and a doctor can order this medicine from a standard pharmacy and give it to you as a treatment for cancer or AIDS or heart disease. There's over 200 vaccines registered. And again, without meaning to have an ego, I have over 200 vaccines registered in parts of this world. No other inventor ever has had more than 1 or 2, maybe 3. No other institute has ever had more than 1. Okay, so look at the registration. This comes from Honduras. It's Biomed AV1, which is one of the very first vaccines I discovered against AIDS. Now, it is available in Honduras. It's not in wide use. I mean, it's in wide. I try and give it as big a use as I can wherever I go. So Honduras still has AIDS. I didn't do a big effort with it as I did with Comoros or with Haiti. But then again, I'm only one guy and I don't have endless resources. But I want you to see that the vaccine actually exists. This is what it looks like. And in 20 years of registration, not a single report of adverse effects. Okay, so I've just been very specific about showing you what is, because for some reason people get really lazy. Unless you're dying, unless you have a vested interest in knowing if an AIDS therapy or a cancer therapy works, unless you have an interest in knowing if a treatment works or not, basically meaning unless you're sick, it's easier to believe the standard media. You know, I did an announcement just in Mexico recently, like 10 minutes ago, with TV cameras, one, and reporters, one. And the amazing thing is that I was announcing the end of AIDS and the end of cancer, and showing a therapy that can actually dissolve the cancer away. I would have had more of a reporter turnout had I announced a new technique of hemorrhoid transplanting. There was almost nobody here. And yet, a celebrity in America can pick up a phone, say I'm a fraud, and everybody hears him. Dr. Oz can announce that I inject goat's milk, and everybody believes him. Other people can say, oh, it's pseudoscience. You know, it's insanity. It's insanity. My own medical board says to me, you say you can cure AIDS and cancer, but science says you can't. Therefore, you're a fraud. And I'm like, okay, science always says something is impossible until it is possible. And what I'll show you now is a way to believe your own eyes. But what I'll criticize right now is this. You have no right to hear this from me, but I'm sorry. I've lived it for 20 years. I have a right to say it, whether you listen to it or not. Your call. Don't wait until you're sick or dying to look into this, because this is a therapy that can apply to almost anything because it repairs the DNA. Don't leave it until it's too late. The easiest thing in the world to say is I'm a fraud or I'm a charlatan. Heaven knows an actor managed to get every media outlet on the planet to say that. Based on what? Based on a comedy series? Or Dr. Oz, based on what? Based on a lie? I mean, play the whole tape you recorded of me. You know very well I never announced that Charlie was cured. He never finished my treatment. You stopped him. But why is it that people would like to feel and believe in bad more than good? You go to church every week, and I bet you pray for an answer to cancer and AIDS. I bet you do. Half of you, more than half of you do. Or whatever it is that's making you sick. But when the answer comes, you don't want to believe it. Is it because you lost somebody? Is it because it's easier not to believe? Is it because a TV star has a more attractive, charismatic personality? Well, you know what? That's not good enough anymore. And after you see what I'm going to show you, it will never be good enough again. You need to believe in this because you need this. Okay, I want to show you the work that I just recently did in Mexico with overseas patients. Madonna Grimes, who's one of the greatest female athletes of our time, contracted bowel cancer. Same thing that killed Farrah Fawcett. Now Farrah Fawcett, endless resources, Cedars-Sinai, UCLA, you couldn't help her. She went off to Germany, and luckily the doctor there gave her chemotherapy and stuff that you can't be too ashamed of. Heaven knows you're ashamed of a cure. You walked away from it. And I'm talking to UCLA and Cedars. You published it, and then you walked away from it. Okay, so she goes to this doctor, and it makes a great documentary. And the doctor sits next to her and says, now, Farrah, we must fight this. What's the we? What's the we? Farrah's the one who's suffering. You're just sitting, patting her hand, playing to the camera. Sorry, you are. And when we spoke, I spoke to that doctor because Farrah's friends reached out to me. She said, we don't need any help right now. We have taken her pain control levels from 10 milligrams of morphine down to 9.8. Really, very good. Well, Farrah went ahead and died. And I'm not saying I could have cured her, but I sure could have helped her a lot more than 10 milligrams to 9.8. I want to show you the cancer that Madonna had. So at the Santoyo Gabinete Radiológico ACDCV, this guy was the president of the radiology department here, and he did the original ultrasounds of Madonna, showing that she had a massive tumor in her anus, a huge 15 by 14 centimeter tumor in her liver, and multiple tumors in her lungs. Madonna Grimes, of course, is one of the greatest athletes of our time, and she's a very well-known face, and she's been fighting cancer now for 4 years. I've never had her particular vaccine type until just recently. I managed to recover it, or reinvent it more or less. And when I say recently, I mean a long time. It's taken me. The reason you haven't seen me doing this before is because A, you weren't looking 20 years ago, and B, it's taken me 20 years to get anywhere near where I used to be. And I could think of nothing crueler than to come out and say, I had a treatment and now it's gone. It's almost like a bad Jewish joke, and I'm Jewish, so I can say that. I could have bought that house for $25,000 and now it's sold for $5 million. Well, why don't you buy another house? No, it's too late. I mean, that's basically what alternative therapy has been till now. We get to hear about the Rife machine that cured everybody. Where the hell is it? We have technology that can easily replicate it. Where the hell is it? Atom force microscopes can be designed to do more than the Rife microscope ever could, and to give you precision frequencies to destroy disease. But we prefer to cry over spilled milk. We prefer that. So when I show you this report from the Santoyo Clinica, it shows the cancer shrinking day by day, and then disappearing over a space of 4 or 5 days. You can read it, it's in Spanish, and of course, almost all of you are going to say, that since in Spanish it's Mexico, it has to be fake. And shame on you. I had the Minister of Health from Mexico, from Zacatecas, standing next to me when this was happening. And the fact that your neighboring country allows you to help people and allows you at least the courtesy of standing by you and evaluating whether or not you can do this, as opposed to listening to a has-been actor or a has-been TV doctor, as opposed to listening to people who think that they know it all but know nothing, as opposed to listening to criticism which you accept, you gobble wholeheartedly. When you see something incredible, you don't believe it. Okay, fine. Ask Madonna how she is. She came here on a wheelchair. She left here dancing. And these photos are shocking, but I need to show them to you. This is Madonna's cancer when she arrived. Oh, make it brighter? Okay. So this is Madonna's cancer. Yeah, edit that. This is Madonna's cancer when she arrived, and you can see that the skin around her butt cheeks is destroyed by this massively hard thing that looks like a grenade. And it's literally destroying, ulcerating her butt cheeks. Now, Madonna had chemotherapy. Madonna had radiotherapy. Madonna had every natural therapy you can imagine. She went to see John of God in Brazil. She went to Germany for chemotherapy. She did everything that Farah did and more. And the doctors told her she was dying. I managed to take her cancer away, or at least really get it well under control once before, or twice before, but you know, conventional medicine makes you do things like chemotherapy just to be sure, or a colostomy just so that you can take chemotherapy. And every time you do an insult like that to your body, you bring back the chances that the cancer will recur, or at least it'll be aggravated. So when she came to me, she was very, very ill. This is the cancer that was measured at the Santoya Clinica and was measured before that. In her liver, she had a mass of 15 centimeters by almost 15 centimeters. And in her rectum, 6 to 10 centimeters. It was a massive one. At the end of 2 days, this was what her rectum looked like. Okay, at the end of 2 days, this is what her rectum looked like. You can barely see a tiny piece of a skin tag. That's the cancer that's dying. It was measured at smaller than 1 centimeter, and it fell off 2 days later. So you may not understand x-rays, you may not believe x-ray results. Believe what real people are showing you. Imagine the courage of this lady to show her butt shot like that, just so that other people would know, just so other people don't need to suffer. And I'm not saying I've cured her. There's still a lot of cancer there. But I'm saying I got rid of what chemotherapy and radiation could not in a very short period of time. I got her out of a wheelchair, like I said, walking and dancing. Okay, so I want to show you another. This is Fatima Pasai. And the report says, this again from the same institute. And all of these cases, we have video footage of the cancer shrinking on ultrasound as the treatment is being applied. So this says, nódulo en el radio de las tres de la mama izquierda de contornos espiculados sólidas con calcificaciones con tamaño de 2.3 por 2.2 centímetros. So here's a lump in the breast, 2.3 by 2.2 in size. Después de la terapia local, su tamaño disminuyó a 1.8 por 1.6. After local treatment, the same day, it was 1.8 by 1.6. Like 5 minutes later, it had lost over 10 or 20% of its volume. 2 días posteriores a la aplicación de la terapia, ya no se detecta la nodulación. 2 days after the application of the treatment by Senior Dr. Sam Chachoua, 2 days after the treatment, the cancer is gone, can't be seen anymore. Okay, this is what it looks like in writing. I want you to see what it looks like. Oh, and any doctor who wants to, more than welcome to come and have a look at the X-ray plates and the ultrasound pictures, of any of these patients. But why don't we look and see how it looks in real life? You can focus on it. So this is the doctor evaluating the breast tissue on Fatima on the second day when I was about to treat her again after the first 2 treatments, third day. And you can see here perfectly normal breast tissue. And I want you to hear him say he can't find it. This is a live video, so you can see his reaction and hers.
¿Seguro que es izquierdo?
Are you sure it's the left? So, what you heard him say, ask her is, are you sure it's your left breast? And that was her reaction. So, this is breast cancer. It was a mass this big. She would have needed to lose her breast in a mastectomy. That was the only way that conventional medicine can take that away. She had failed hormone therapy to even shrink it. So, this is very real. This is very, very real. I need you to see that because one day your life, someone you care about may depend on it. And I need you to believe your eyes, not the words of fools or people who are so smart that they can't see the truth because they think that they know it all. Actually, thinking you know it all is the biggest indicator of stupidity. Take the time to come and look at this. Doctor, if you want to criticize it, can you do something like that? Can you make cancer disappear? Can everybody be lying about their cancer disappearing? I want to show you something else. It's really important so you can understand how dramatic this is. It's in a patient with 2 lobules of a mass of a head and neck cancer, one of the hardest cancers to treat. So we'll cut to that. So like I said, what you're about to see has never been seen before. Nobody's ever been able to do this before. What I wanted to do was develop therapy again over the 20 years, be able to give it back to you, and in a way that nobody can argue. Cancer therapy isn't a popularity contest. It isn't who's got the bigger name, who looks better on TV. It isn't who's got more money or who's got a bigger institute. You know what it is? It's who can do this. Now, here's David. David has a massive head and neck cancer, which I'm about to inject. And you're about to see, for the first time in history, cancer cry and go away. You're going to see cancer mass dissolve in real time in front of your eyes. That's nothing that chemotherapy can do, nothing that radiation can do. Heaven knows this guy has tried so many different things. And here goes.
For this one.
I have it under ultrasound control so I can see exactly where I'm going. The vaccine is going to turn the cancer cells into fibrotic and normal cells immediately. And that will show up as a change in density. So you see 2 lobules here. You see my needle going in, it's that thin line that just showed up there. And as I start to inject it, you see this whiteness as the cancer acquires the structure the normal cellular structure as the other tissue around it.
All this white area that's happening right now is dying as you're looking at it.
Dying cancer and cancer changing back to normal structure. This is what cancer looks like. This is what normal tissue looks like. Look what's happening to the cancer as I inject it. Can you not see it's becoming more normal and less cancer as you're looking? And in seconds, the cancer, which used to be all the way over here, is half the size. One entire lobe of the cancer has been eradicated. One entire lobe of the cancer has been eradicated, and what's left in its place is fibrotic tissue and normal cells, normal type structure. And then it's starting to creep in on the other one as well, even in areas where I haven't injected. So, cancer disappear in front of your eyes. Never happened before. I don't think you'll ever see it. Well, I hope you get to see it a lot more often, actually. But certainly, if you want to say that this is fake, this is a quack therapy, well, hey, you've seen an official ultrasound, something that doctors will have fun with. You've seen a big lump from Madonna disappearing, something an ordinary person can understand. And you've seen the reaction on people's faces as they get over this disease. That hasn't been seen before. There has never been a treatment, ever, that can take cancer down in a day. It doesn't exist, except right here. And unless you open your eyes, unless you demand that people start doing it, you'll never get it. Why do you want so badly to listen to doctors who say, well, it's not science, it's pseudoscience? Well, you know what? I don't care if it's voodoo. You just saw it happening. And it isn't voodoo. It's real medicine that's been around in other countries. So this is what you need to know, understand, look for, and fight for. Because you know what? You've never fought for this before. Nobody has ever fought for this before. I've asked for help before. All of this is my own work. Nobody else has ever funded it. It's not going to go into some big pharmaceutical person's pocket. It's going to be there for you if you need it, but only if you want it, only if you ask for it, only if you demand it. You don't listen to people who say it doesn't work without testing it. Everybody, it's easy to say it doesn't work. Come down. I'll do this little matrix thing. Come on over. Try it. Watch it. See what happens. I don't care about financial gain from this. I'd like every university and every hospital to offer it for free to patients. UCLA, USC, you published it. Offer it to people. Let them benefit from the work you stole from me. I don't care. Just let people benefit. Don't turn away from this. Don't look at it and forget. This is genetic-based therapy, which means whatever the disease is, whatever the problem is, I can help. This therapy can help. I had cases here with structural deformities. I've had cases here with MS, arthritis, you name it. I'm pretty sure it can always help. And I'm pretty sure it can't hurt. And I have 20 years behind me to say that. I want to introduce you to a couple of the patients. So just in closing, I want to show a couple of things. See, when you're repairing DNA, which is a lot of what this therapy does, and just so that you don't think it's out of cloud nine, there is actually a precedent for some of this work. There's the work of Dr. Lewison, who found that certain yeast cells can correct the genetic structure of cancer and turn them back to normal cells. That's back in 1927. There's also some more recent work showing that the Serratia maricescens actually has enzymes that can repair other organisms. The idea is that we're not so far related from our microbial ancestors, and we're able to use their DNA repair mechanisms, and some of these organisms can live inside a volcano and nuclear reactors, so they have really good repair mechanisms. We're able to use some of those in repairing human tissue. Just a recent article about the Serratia also brings to mind one of my greatest heroes, who's Dr. Coley, Professor Coley. He developed a system called Coley's toxins, which were organisms that he tried to have infect cancer cells to effect a cure. Couldn't do it, so he ended up making extracts of, and those extracts worked beautifully. I think 52% sarcoma cures. Today we barely get 3 to 6% for advanced cases. And although he invented it almost 200 years ago, it's still under FDA IND as an investigational new drug. So, heavens, a lot of us can't wait for the new stuff. We need to have a little bit of a faster track on things other than chemotherapy. I also want to mention that he added Serratia maracescens to his mixture and then had better results. He thought it was because the Serratia, which he called Bacillus prodigosus, was more toxic or enhanced the toxicity. No, it was enhancing the DNA healing. So, you know, there are links to some previous therapies which were spectacular. This is still better, but I just want you to know. There have been people who have looked at something like this before. Okay, so if the thing works against DNA damage and repairs it, then anything to do with the genetic blueprint can be fixed. Asthma, arthritis, heart disease, bad eyesight, bad hearing, bad skin, psoriasis, you name it. But I'll pass you on to one of the best recent examples, my friend Samil.
Hello. Well, my name is Samil. I come from Panama, and I know the therapy of the doctor by a good friend from Panama too. And I having problems my lower back and my knee. I have a meniscus repair several years ago, and I still got then another injury in my meniscus, but I decided not to have a surgery. And the length of my legs, my left leg, was a little bit shorter than the right. So all this create like always pain when I'm walking or doing any type of sport. And well, the doctor inject me with his vaccines and got repair right away, and I feel great, no pain at all. I walk all day, feel very strong on my back. My knee doesn't hurt at all.
His leg was 2 inches shorter than the other leg, and we actually have a video of it where it just goes zip and reestablishes normal length. You're also there for some of these videos, no?
Yeah, probably.
You met the people?
The other patients? Yes, of course. Have the opportunity the doctor gave me the opportunity to see the other patients and how he was treating them, and really amazing how the doctor can help the people and cure them, and I suggest anyone to really try to reach the doctor. It's a great heart and has a technique that is fabulous, out of this world.
You know, you were there when some of these cancers disappeared on screen. I had you there because I wanted you to document, like David with the.
Yeah.
And you were there and you saw all the reporters that came and saw it all. And I don't know, but for me it's such a disappointment to have had so many people see this and say nothing, you know, or see it and do nothing. The reporters, the article that came out was, doctor says he cures AIDS, but others say he's a charlatan. What the hell did that have to do with the cancer disappearing in front of their eyes? It's almost like they have something that's safe, and it doesn't matter what they see, they have to say it.
Yeah, I think people normally only believe what other people says, and when they can see it with their eyes, it's very maybe tough to digest. Like the example I just said, the David that has a problem, the cancer in his throat. I was there before, and the moment that the doctor put the vaccine in, I was seeing in the TV in the
Ultrasound.
in the ultrasound, and it's right there. I mean, it's evident that the vaccines work, and really, I hope more people see this and get to know that the doctor is for real.
Thank you. And I know you speak Spanish, because your English is so terrible. But
Yeah.
no, I'm kidding. I know you speak Spanish and a little bit of Portuguese, I guess. An amazing thing is that, again, people like to hear the bad, and they like to believe the bad, and they get animated by the bad. And but while everybody was attacking me, and I'm talking about every single website, just based on what Charlie or Oz or Drew were saying, somehow they missed the fact that Brazil, and I'm talking about a guy called Brazil, I'm talking about the country Brazil, their biggest research institute, published that the best hope they have to eradicate AIDS is Dr. Sam Chachoua's vaccine. See, they've been running an evaluation on it for the past couple of years. And they came up with this article, which you can see, Diario de Pernambuco.com.br. They talk about the technology they tested, and they say, what's new is that while everybody else is trying to find a vaccine that attacks AIDS precisely, I've invented one that attacks it really strongly, but in a manner to alter its shape, to change its ability to bind to the disease cells, and to be very, very effective at doing that and at destroying the virus. The idea of my vaccine is to change the outer shape while using an intracellular immunity. People with autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, or people with CAEV, they have the ability to have cells, or certain other viral infections, they have the ability to have their immune system fire off proteins that go into the heart of the cell and actually destroy bits of the DNA. That's why people with autoimmune disease have anti-nuclear antibodies. These are really bad for you unless you have a disease inside your nucleus, and then you become the best system for getting rid of it. So modifying an autoimmune system enables you to enter into the cell and remove the disease while you're changing its outer appearance. The people in Pernambuco reported that, and the greatest hope for AIDS, one report, nobody at all listened to it because everybody else wanted to listen to, I'm injecting goat's milk and I'm a charlatan, because it's easier to understand and swallow. Well, it isn't. Now you understand how this works. Swallow it. Accept that it's here. Now, again, the reason for Samil is because something so unrelated to killing and destroying succumbed to the same technology, rebuilding a leg, rebuilding a meniscus. Again, this is something that you would have needed massive surgery, and here you are. You saw Madonna's friend with the damaged shoulder as well, repaired in about, how long?
2 seconds.
2 seconds. And he was able to move again and have full strength in the shoulder. Again, hard to believe unless you understand that DNA repair is a concept that's never been used before. So we're not going to be familiar with how fast it reacts. Well, it reacts pretty damn quick. Now, I want to show you another video on Antoinette now. So sitting next to me is this beautiful lady. I want to introduce her to you on video first. Her name is Antoinette, and this is me meeting Antoinette just a few days ago.
I want you to get up and walk around a little bit.
Antoinette is suffering from MS in this picture. See how hard, she had a hard time standing up, balancing.
Takes time.
Kirsten has a plane to catch in 10 minutes, so we have to fix all that in 10 minutes, okay? Come back. I'm joking, just come back to me. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now, I'm just going to give you a tiny, tiny, tiny injection, okay?
Yeah.
Right here.
In my neck.
Oh, yeah.
Is it gonna hurt?
No. Really?
No.
Okay, good. Now, DNA... Stop it! DNA repair is unlike any other form of repair. So please, put your 2 arms out forward. And can you feel this?
Yeah.
And can you feel this?
Yeah.
There was a very definite difference in sensation between the 2 arms. Okay, turn around. When we started.
Can you feel this?
A few minutes later.
Can you feel this?
Yeah. A little bit less on this one.
A little bit less. So this and this. Which one's less?
I think this one, it's...
You're not sure anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let me get back to your lower back.
She had a right-sided weakness. She wasn't able to raise her right knee.
Okay. Now, can you raise this leg up in the air? Okay, good. Now raise this leg up in the air.
That's better. That's better.
That's a lot better. Okay.
Yeah. Did you notice that? Okay.
You couldn't raise it.
Wait. Wait. Not done. Can you please get up and walk?
She has a plane to catch her. It's better, no?
Really made a difference.
She hasn't walked like this in how long? How do you feel?
This is bad news for you because I could raise it to kick you now.
How do you feel?
Oh, hopeful.
Baby, do you know how much better you're
You're
walking?
walking?
Can't believe it still.
It's the pain that's not there.
Okay, where's the pain?
Over here,
Is it still there?
a little bit.
Where? Where?
Here.
Okay. Show me exactly where the pain
I
is.
have to pull down my...
Turn around.
Yeah,
You don't have to.
Okay.
you don't have to
Where's the
on
pain?
camera.
Over here.
Show me. You have to pull down.
I do?
Yes, but not for that good girl.
Not for the camera.
Okay. Walk around. You know you're walking normally, right?
Holy cow. It's just a balance and equilibrium.
I'm getting to that.
You are?
But you know you're walking normally, right?
Am
Yes.
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 Like a
You are.
huge.
Nature different.
Huge
You couldn't get
difference.
up before. It takes you, it used to
I
take
think
you
you're
a
in
while.
shock. You
Okay.
should watch the video.
And how about like all the pain and numbness in my knees? Is that gonna go
Do you have it now?
over here?
Okay, have a seat.
Muscle,
Have a seat. Okay. By the way, come towards me a little bit. Okay, raise this knee up as far as you can. Raise this knee up as far as you can.
oh my god.
That's better.
Yeah, I think I like it.
Look how much better she's standing and sitting
Oh,
now.
I'll
It's
tell
like
you,
almost
it's
second.
amazing. See, I couldn't do this.
Or even put socks on, it's always okay.
Now, do you realize that had you taken any medication for MS, almost none of it works?
I know, I interviewed 11 people, and that's where...
And if it does a little bit, it's after months and months and months and months, and at a great price. There's massive side effects to the chemo. Do you have any side effects?
No, just... hopeful. You know what I want? Her shoes.
Give her your shoes. Do you have time? It takes exactly a minute and the remission begins. The symptoms go in remission. I'm pretty confident I can keep you there. I'm pretty confident the MS will never bother you again. Worst case scenario, it starts to slip back, I treat you again. But this is control, and this is a very real chance for a lifetime cure.
And this is just with this dosage? Or there's more injection?
Well, I'll be doing 2 or 3 more because I want to do a couple more just to top you up completely. But nothing can do this, you know that.
The other treatments that promised a cure, I did severe stuff. I did intravenous chelation therapy to remove heavy metals from my brain. Nothing came out of that after 31 intravenous chelation therapies. I did intravenous hydrogen peroxide. I did intravenous colloidal silver, which they said, oh yeah, MS is a virus. It's the mycoplasma virus, it's in the brain, and if you do intravenous colloidal silver, it's gone. And I just want to tell you something that I am thinking very clear now, which I could not have done this before. I could write a book or 2. And I also did, which they promised me the MS would go away because MS and Lyme disease is one and the same. I did 2 months of treatments. Weekly, I did major autohemotherapy.
Oh my gosh.
Major autohemotherapy. 10 rounds per treatment, which means they extracted my blood, they ozonated it, and they reinserted it 10 times in one treatment, and I did that on a weekly basis for 2 months. Oh, for fuck's sakes.
You might have to lift them up on the side to be a little bit more stable. Here.
There you go.
Is it zip up?
Zip down.
Hold on.
Alors, j'aimerais vous raconter mon histoire personnelle. J'ai été diagnostiquée avec la sclérose en plaques en 2012. En 2012, la sclérose en plaques, et puis quelques mois plus tard, avec la maladie Lyme chronique et pas mal avancée. Alors, ce qui m'inquiétait, ce que je n'aimais pas du tout de la sclérose en plaques, c'est que je ne pouvais pas marcher toute seule. J'avais besoin toujours de l'assistance de mes enfants. J'ai 3 jeunes enfants. Ils devaient m'aider, me lever, m'accompagner à la toilette. Mon mari aussi. Pendant les 2-3 dernières années, j'étais vraiment renfermée dans ma chambre à coucher parce que je ne pouvais pas faire grand-chose, descendre des escaliers ou sortir, aller magasiner. C'était vraiment... c'est pas une vie agréable à vivre. Mais j'ai fait des recherches. J'ai appelé un docteur de médecine naturelle à Toronto, où ce que j'habite présentement. Et puis ce médecin-là, il s'appelle le docteur José de Costaris. Et le docteur de Costaris, je lui ai parlé de mon cas, il a vu que c'était pas mal sévère. C'était sévère. J'ai dit, j'ai plus envie de vivre. J'ai dit, je ne veux plus vivre comme ça. C'est pas une façon de vivre. Alors il m'a dit, Antoinette, je vais être bien honnête avec toi. S'il y a un médecin qui peut t'aider, il y en a un médecin seulement. Puis son nom c'est le docteur Sam Chachoua. J'ai dit, bon, OK, il est où cette personne-là? Il m'a dit, il est quelque part au centre, au Sud-Amérique. Là, il m'a dit, mais avant de le contacter, va voir son YouTube vidéo. Son YouTube vidéo qui s'appelait The Myth of Incurable Diseases. Quelque chose comme ça. J'ai vu le vidéo, j'ai dit, mais ça se peut-tu? J'ai dit, ça se peut-tu? Les gens, le cancer disparaissent, la sclérose en plaques est guérie instantanément. J'ai dit, je vais essayer ça. Fait que je suis descendue en Sud-Amérique, au Mexique, avec mon mari. Et puis, bon, comme vous avez vu dans la vidéo, j'en revenais pas. J'en revenais pas. Juste un seul vaccin et puis je marchais. Plus de douleur dans les genoux, plus de douleur dans les hanches. Je marchais, puis la vie est belle aujourd'hui.
All right, so that was really nice. I just want to just sum up really quickly, please. A vaccine in this society or a therapy in this society isn't normally accepted unless it comes from the right source. And we believe like the FDA is the be-all and end-all. Well, as we talk, my therapy is going through FDA approval. It didn't go through 20 years ago, couldn't go through 20 years ago because Cedars and UCLA denied all the basic testing I'd done in my first couple of phases of experimentation. They burned my name with the people with the FDA, just the same as they burned my name with the publishers of real journals. Now, there's a very serious side to this because I can't count the millions of people who've died or suffered because this technology was buried. But there's no point in saying bad Cedars, bad UCLA, rapping them on the knuckles or suing them. There's no point in saying, oh Charles, you're so bad, Mr. Sheen, or Dr. Oz, or Dr. Drew. You tried your best to destroy me, and heaven knows you did a pretty good job. 20 years ago I was blown up when I was suing Cedars and UCLA. Just a few days ago I was beaten up. I was injected with AIDS blood. People who attacked me said it was courtesy of you, Charlie. So I don't know much like how to respond to that other than I'm still here. I don't know what the next event will be. You know, the thing is that when a car bomb goes off and nobody reports it, but when you get attacked and Charlie's name is mentioned, it's news. I haven't had anybody from the world media ask me about the therapy because Oz, Drew, Charlie, you're nothing. Even I'm nothing compared to a therapy that can cure cancer and AIDS. That's where the focus is, not about how little people you are. And it will never go past this. You see, if I try and say, oh, there's a conspiracy, oh, please help me, they've tried to kill me, there's a big bad pharma out there, then everybody already hangs their head and says, well, it's a wasted case. You know something? The average person has so much power, so much incredible power. You guys are the ones who make the change. I mean, AIDS, you stood up, you fought for a treatment, and you have a reasonably good treatment. You have an amazing one now that I just spoke to you about. That's because you demand it, and you don't let people say to you, well, no, it can't be done. It took AIDS 20 years to do what cancer didn't do in 2 centuries. Almost every cancer patient, well, more than half, will die of infection. So you would think that you would give cancer patients a pill or a vaccine to prevent that infection. I did that in my early days, and people lived longer and healthier. AIDS patients often die of pneumonia, and they get a preventative antibiotic. So, you know, you stand up, you scream, you demand something, you get it. And it's really important that you don't let this be spilt milk and just cry over it when I'm gone. Oh, the guy had a treatment and now he's gone. You know what? Pathetic. Pathetic. Take your own lives into your own hands. Your doctor says there's no answer for it. You just saw an answer. I just showed you. Oh, how can you trust me? Don't trust me. Read the publications UCLA and Cedars and USC published about my work. Oh, well, why haven't they brought it out there? There must be a reason. No, there isn't. You don't write in a journal, in a respected medical journal, I have a vaccine that can wipe out AIDS, and I have a treatment that's better than chemo, and not give it to people. How can you sleep through that? How could you have slept through the lawsuit I went through with them? How can it be that the only thing that interests international media is whether I was attacked or not? The hell with that. I don't care about that. I care about the therapy. It's not about me making money. I don't even have a center where you can go to right now. I am trying to get it through the FDA so that hospitals everywhere can give you the treatment. It isn't about business, it's an obligation. When you know how to do something, you have to get it out to the people. This is the cancer that killed my father, multiple myeloma. I have a patient called Melanie who's been cured now since the first treatment months ago, years ago. Others have been cured. What respect would I have for my father to let another child go through what I went through? What respect would you have for yourself or someone you love to let this just come, see it, hear about it, take it as entertainment and watch it go? I'm not going to give you that luxury. And I'm going to demand something from you. A few years ago, when Dr. Kevorkian was around killing people who had cancer, who had AIDS, who had MS, who had depression, he would kill somebody for asthma or depression. Okay, people were marching up and down the streets, thousands demanding the right to die with dignity. You were championing him. Okay. I've just taken the pain away from cancer. I've shown you you can take cancer away from cancer, make it a normal cell in a few minutes. Don't you think that deserves a little bit of championing? And instead of marching up and down and screaming about the right to die with dignity, how about you support the right to life with health and dignity?